As interim director for the Egleston Square Neighborhood Association and later as the lead organizer for ESNA. We got technical assistance from ACE around environmental issues in Egleston Square. When we walked around and looked at the vacant lots, we realized consciously for the first time that there were a lot of diesel vehicles going through the neighborhood. And so Penn suggested that we count the vehicles while we were, and so we did a morning and an afternoon of counting diesel vehicles, and there were 160 an hour, both trucks and buses. And what we discovered in the long run from all this counting was there were 400 diesel buses that were just deadheading to Forest Hills from the yard up here by Dudley on Washington Street. I remember the day that we did the counting, I had part of my job there was to teach an ESL class, and I went home and I said to my girlfriend, I said, I really feel kind of sick. I don't know what's wrong with me. I have this headache. I feel a little nauseous. She said, well, you just counted diesel vehicles for a day. And I was like, oh yeah, that might have something to do with it. But it was really like, I was doing this job of counting diesel vehicles, and then I was really sick and I couldn't even quite make all the connections myself. I was the lead organizer at ESNA, and we organized many residents to participate in different kinds of actions, to speak at conferences. I think one of the first educational pieces was the founding of EJ in the Hood, which was a number of organizations working with ACE to create the conference, and lots of residents. I remember one year 15 or 20 residents from Egleston went to the conference. 1996 is when we did the initial mapping project. Sort of simultaneously, this proposal for the development of Jackson Square was happening. And so from our work in Egleston, we have become much more conscious about development and what is pedestrian-friendly development. So we started to advocate within this development of Jackson Square, we started to advocate for pedestrian-friendly stuff. We also knew that one of the sites was pretty heavily polluted. And so we dealt with MEJAN about what exactly the procedure should be in terms, because the procedure had changed since we did it at Egleston Station. And I thought that the technical assistance we received from ACE was really like things that access to resources that we couldn't really get ourselves, or education and information, and a central contact with other community organizations in Chelsea and Dorchester, which we wouldn't have connected with as quickly as we did through ACE. Through their expertise, they made the connections, yeah. I had been in other kinds of jobs where there was technical assistance, and it always seemed sort of like you were telling the technical assistance people your whole story, and then they were telling you three obvious things. Environmental justice, like any justice movement, is about creating a world in which people have an equal share in resources and equal access to resources, that particular communities are not the dumping ground for either environmental things or for fiscal messes, or and ultimately I think it means that corporations are responsible for cleaning up their own messes. Corporations are responsible that, environmental costs should be on the balance sheet of every corporation in the world. How do we, create sustainable economies? How do we create sustainable fuel sources? How do we reorganize our society so we're not so dependent on individual personal vehicles? I think in many parts of the world, people have a stronger sense of looking out for everyone, have a stronger sense of group. But in this country and in this culture is built on the rugged individual. And no matter how much we might be trying to rebel against that or escape that. The other thing we have to develop is that sense of compassion about the other person who isn't standing in front of you. Like, how does this action that I'm taking now affect, people around the world? But in order to really think like that every day, there has to be alternatives available. There has to be, I can all I want think about alternative fuels, but to actually enact that in my home is pretty cost prohibitive. I'm a teacher. I taught high school for a little while. Now I teach adult education. I use some environmental things in my classroom. But I teach literacy and English as a second language. I've been an activist my entire adult life. I'm at a little bit of a low ebb in that direction. I do some work around with City like Vita Urbana.
Yeah.
I'm on their board around foreclosure and those kind of issues. But I'm at a little bit of a low point in my political life.